Recently, I played chapters 3 and 4 of Deltarune for the first time. It was finally released after 4 years of waiting, and let me tell you, Toby Fox did not disappoint. These new chapters are absolutely amazing, specifically chapter 4, which if you read the title, is my personal favorite. But that is not to say that the other chapters pale in comparison. This video will function as an overview of the chapter in its entirety, with reviewing each and every part of it. But first, let's talk about more general things. The first thing I really like about chapter 4 is the gameplay. It has some of the most fun and interesting gameplay alongside Chapter 2, of course. Although now that I think about it, Chapter 2's gameplay might be a smidge more solid. Did I actually just do that? Toby, why do you have to make that so hard? Like, seriously, Toby, these parts are fun, but are way too precise for the average player. Oh, finally. Anyways, many people prefer Chapter 3's gameplay, which makes sense as it's mostly mini-games, so the gameplay should be good, but the gameplay during these chapters just irk me the wrong way, mainly because they are mini-games and not the game. It just kinda makes the gameplay subconsciously feel like it's not contributing, even though I know it is. One of the other things that Chapter 4 did better than Chapter 3 was the secret boss. But Blake, isn't the Roaring Knight the secret boss? No, it's this random corrupted version of the Zelda game. Chapter 4 has a much more obvious secret boss. Well, at least not obvious for me to find it on my first playthrough. However, I am a bit disappointed that we didn't get another Jevil or Spamton secret boss character that would become instantly iconic, and I'm also confused on why Toby made it so hard to get the eggs in these new chapters. Like, Toby, you just have to make it walking in between two rooms, and make it like Chapter 2 where it gives you a clue on the wall. Also, I think Chapter 4 handles the tonal shift after Chapter 3 and within the chapter itself very well. I think it would get very boring if every chapter was as goofy as chapters 1 and 2 up until Chapter 7. The plot of Chapter 4 is all over the place and is incredibly unique. Having a good amount of playtime in both the light world and the dark world is a great idea, and I think it should be done more often in future chapters. And having the chapter themed about the unique church and religion of Deltarune, which of course is based off of Catholicism, you go to church, you listen to a priest, there's singing, and there's juice. But it's of course not a Christian church, as you can tell. Afterwards we get our chance to explore Hometown, which is fun because the game allows us to play at our own pace. You can immediately go to Noelle's house, go back to Castletown, and even mess around with Sans' sign. Anyways, we get to Noelle's house and... well, what do you expect her house to look like? Anyways, we go into Dessa's room trying to find the code for the bunker, and Chris rips out their soul. Personally, I'm not exactly sure why Chris did this. Why wouldn't they want us to find the bunker code? If Dessa's supposedly in the bunker, does Chris not want us to find her? Anyways, we get our soul back after some antics with Suzie playing Dessa's guitar and Chris being out to get us. Noelle's mom shows up and kicks Suzie out, which is understandable. What, don't lie, you would be pretty pissed if a friend of your daughter started playing your missing child's instrument. The only problem that I have with Noelle's house is the fact that you can't go in every room. Yes, I know it's nitpicking every little detail, but I think it would be cool if we could. Anyways, we go back to the church to find Toriel because she locked the house for some reason. Yes, I know Toriel was living it up with Sand Undertale, but I don't see why Toriel would lock the front door knowing that Chris and Suzie are out of the house. So, under the impression that Toriel's at church, we go there to another damn fountain. Okay, so I know this is breaking the whole thing about going in order of events, but the sprite work is amazing. Temmie and everyone else did an incredible job at these backgrounds, and especially on the Titan sprites. This is how I reacted when I first saw it. The sprite work! Oh my god! The amount of new people working on Deltarune is incredibly obvious when comparing it to Undertale. Anyways, we end up in the dark world where we do piano puzzles. I wonder where I've heard of that before. Yeah, I must be losing my marbles. Also, I found out that you can do this. Sugar! If you know, you know. The puzzles are incredibly fun in this chapter, same with the battles. Like, why is there this random character that speaks Chinese? And why do they look like one of the letters that they say? By the way, I just realized that after seeing a Reddit post about it while making this video. Because we are in the church, the game explains more about the legend of the Deltarune in the form of these glass panels. They're really cool and lead to some interesting moments later. And, wait, who turned off the lights? Wait. What is that? Shit. Run. Oh, it's just Gerson. Wait, Gerson? So it turns out that Gerson is revived because of the Dark World. I think this is a really interesting thing to include, and it may come in handy later. What if Des is dead and we find her dust and make a dark fountain to revive her temporarily? That would be pretty cool, and I don't think they're dropping this new lore and detail about the Dark Worlds for no reason. Anyways, we do some more puzzles for a while, and that's pretty cool. And honestly, I just love doing my voice for Gerson. You're afraid of making those little green sparkles. He's literally just Herbert the Pervert.
I'm looking for a car that's been tricked out to look like an ice cream truck.
Gerson tries to help us with the best line in the game, no doubt about it.
I'm old!
Afterwards, we arrive at the old man's study, where he explains the lore about the axe, even though I never even did the fight. We go on to more piano puzzles that I struggled on. Like, seriously, this puzzle with the pink and green blocks took me like 10 minutes to do. Afterwards, we meet him, Jackenstein. This is what I mean by the new battles being incredible. This battle devolves into a really fun but difficult shitpost, which is incredible. Thank you, Toby. It really makes me think of old sentence mixing from YouTube poops where voice lines are taken and randomly changed, shuffled, and edited around. As a matter of fact, and also, I think it really works well as a semi-tutorial for future fights such as the Titan, by using orbs to collect TP without grazing. And also, I just love Jackenstein's little face. He's a cool little guy. Anyways, Suzie did some healing stuff, and Jackenstein gave us the ability to climb up certain walls. The gameplay is already good, and this just elevates it even further. It makes the whole chapter feel so tall, because you're constantly going up. Yes, I know for chapters 1 and 2, you kind of go up at the end with the card castle and Queen's Mansion, but this chapter constantly feels like a hike up a mountain, which I personally think makes the chapter feel less linear. Speaking of less linear, I find it interesting that there's an objective linear path to it, the chapter, but it doesn't force us to go down that path, and makes both paths equally obvious, unlike Undertale and other Deltarune chapters, where there's a clear way to progress. I understand that some people don't like being confused on where to go, but I kind of do, to a reasonable degree at least. It forces you to explore the chapter, look for things, which makes the game feel like it has a less straight way to go, and it makes other things in the game feel equally as important as the intended route. Anyways, we go through Gerson's study once more. We climb and find a weird room with way too many bells to count, and a piano. Turns out the old man has the right combination, and after a nice conversation that Suzie has with him about the letter that he's writing, we get the combination and we let Chris do it for us. I find it interesting that we were actually able to voluntarily give up this task to the real Chris, who can actually play piano, and that they know and are okay with being given the ability to play because we suck. However, since I'm unsatisfied with that, I play for myself. Reason for the whole thing, Chris. Yeah, I did it! Yeah, I did it! I don't know, it sounds kind of off. Is there a switcher key you use or something? It sounds nice without it, too. Oh. I have to use the switcher key. Oh, why do you play so different? Are you, like, nervous or something? I thought they were both really nice renditions, does he? They know. Suzie talks to Gerson again about his letter, and we go face the knight. However, after a long chase, the knight gets away and makes another fountain. We seal the dark fountain that we are in to try to get an advantage, but the door to the main room is locked. We take advantage of the time that we have and take a look around the entrance of the church and the other rooms. First, we look at the piano, where Suzie tells us a story about her past where she smashed a community piano because she wasn't allowed to play it for unclear reasons. Also, while I was messing around, I found out that Chris's cell phone contacts and past numbers have been deleted, which is really weird. That has never happened to us before after being in a dark world. Did the presence of the knight somehow mess with that? Next, we open the closet, and what we find is Jackenstein! What do you think it was? Finally, we go into the office where we find something crazy. Not the old man, but Suzie looks in the drawer, looking for the code, and finds the dust of Gerson in a case with the hammer. I don't know why this surprised me so much on my first playthrough, because it makes sense considering all the evidence that we have. Out of remembrance for the old man, Suzie writes his letter for him, which she promised to do so. Suzie remembers that the old man may know how to open the door to where the Roaring Knight is, so by using a knife, courtesy of Chris, of course, she creates a dark fountain. We found out that it's not the exact same Dark World due to the fact that every Dark World is unique in its own way. Suzie's Dark World is a twisted version of the one we saw before, with a different color scheme, unique enemies, and new music to drive the point home. Also, I noticed this. But lo, on Hopes and Dreams, they said the thing, Undertale reference? I have a feeling that this isn't the first time I've said something like this while playing the new 2 chapters. Anyways, we get more of the prophecy while we are in this new Dark World. While I was playing this reminded me of the fact that you fight a Titan at the end because a friend had spoiled it for me. I'm not naming any names, but you know who you are. Sorry. Also, one of the things I just noticed is that 2 of the enemies of the first sanctuary and the second sanctuary swap roles. In the first one is stone and one is a viewing the other. Here, the enemy that was not stone is stone and vice versa. The piano puzzles also work differently. Instead of moving a tile, we're moving ourselves. And the wall texture and the floor texture have been swapped. Anyways, the prophecy begins to describe Chris, Suzie, and Ralsei and their place in the legend. Chris is described as a cage, referring to how we occupy Chris's body, and could also be referencing the bird cage that we are thrown in at the end of chapter 1. Suzie is of course confused by this because she doesn't know about the whole ripping out your soul thing. Right before we see Suzie's part, we see this interesting part where we go upside down. I think this is a common trope in media, but I can't remember a specific example of where this is from. Personally, it reminds me of like Scooby-Doo, and I think that's where it originally came from. We see Suzie's part next, and it really resonates with her. When we go to look around for more about that, and Suzie finds a mention of love. Why did I do that voice? What is wrong with me? Hinting at Noelle's feelings for her. Suzie is of course flustered by this, and we go over to find more about it, but we stumble upon something much more important. To save worlds, there's only one way. It's learns how to save the world. This won't make everything easy, yeah. No, it's never that simple. It's never that simple, blood. I didn't even know that was gonna happen. It's never that simple. We think it's the old man, but the floor shatters beneath us and we come immediately plummeting to the ground. We then have this fun climbing section where we need to consistently go upwards, and Suzie even helps us at some parts. It really reminds me of the game Pac-Man 256, where a glitchy void of death is constantly rising, and you need to keep moving. After a close call, we get to Gerson's study once more, and we try to find that shadowy figure we saw before. And here, the game almost becomes a horror game in this section that brings back the green soul from Undertale. Yes, I know that the secret boss also uses the green soul, but I was a little dumb and did not find it. It turns out that the shadowy figure was not Gerson, and it was a statue of him that came to life. Ralsei explained that darkners like Gerson form under very specific circumstances, and he won't be able to come to Castletown. Suzie is just a little upset and starts yelling at Ralsei about why he didn't tell us that, to the point where Ralsei just completely breaks down and starts crying and explains why he didn't. And also, a friend of mine said that they really don't like Ralsei anymore because they feel like that Ralsei is seeking attention through this. If you think this way, well, you're wrong. I know some people in real life do trauma dump to seek attention, but this clearly isn't that because Ralsei has done everything to not do that because he feels worthless. Anyway, Suzie understands that her crashing out at Ralsei was a bit uncalled for and tells him that he is not worthless and we value the relationship that we have with him. We get up and we press onwards with newfound confidence. And this random NPC we meet gives us the code to the door in the light world. How do they know the code? I don't know. But we seal the fountain and we go into the dark world where the roaring night is in, and we enter the third sanctuary. Anyways, we're now on the home stretch of chapter 4. We get to a tall structure that we need to climb, and luckily, help shows up. Jackenstein, my man, yeah! Oh, sorry. Unfortunately, the glass suddenly shatters and we fall to our deaths. Fortunately, I was lying. That's why you should trust no one, and we were saved by all the monsters that we spared. We wave goodbye and head off for the night because we are right on its tail. However, the light starts running low and the shadows start to grow, but we stick together, which immediately reminds me of the scrapped sneaking thing from chapter 3. Seriously, Toby, why isn't that music in the OST? It's so good! Suddenly, the knight throws some attacks our way. Damn it. It's so dark we can't see anything. If this keeps up, we'll be dead. Guess they weren't kidding about a light inside your soul. But we eventually make it out. Now we're finally face to face with the knight. And it seems like we've cornered them, but as a last resort, the knight makes a new fountain right in front of us, creating a fucking titan. Even though I was spoiled, this was fucking surreal. The sprite work, the sound effects, the tension. Words cannot explain how I felt in this moment, but images can. We quickly climb up the structure where the Titan formed, and Ralsei explains to us how Titans work. Looks like we're safe for the time being. It's only a matter of time until it finds us. Ralsei, what the hell is that thing? When the fountain's power becomes too strong, when the flow of darkness roars wild, it makes that a Titan. It's the fear of dark. It's the bump in the night. It's the shadow of the backside of your mind. It has no consciousness. It only exists to destroy. The Titan cuts us off, and Ralsei shows off his ability to hover, which really confused me when I first played, and I'm still confused. Toby, why did you just randomly put this in? We find another place we can climb up, but first the game gives us a bit of a tutorial for the night fight with these little Titan babies. It shows us how if we graze the bullets, it depletes them and turns them into TP orbs, like from the Jackenstein fight. After that, we make our way to the top, and with that, fight began. When all hope seemed lost, Gerson came in clutch, and the knight gets dunked on! Dunked on. We then seal the fountain the Titan came from in the sickest way possible. Suzie remembers about Gerson and runs off to find him. Ralsei is so surprised that we beat a Titan, but then quickly remembers where Suzie's going, and he darts off to stop her. He realizes that Suzie is going to see how the prophecy ends, and he wants to stop that, but it's too late. Suzie witnessed the way it's going to end and shatters the glass out of shock. Ralsei apologizes profusely, but Suzie cuts him off. She denies whatever is gonna happen, and that the three of us can change fate. Suzie walks away and waits for us to get ready to seal the fountain. Ralsei, however, is not any better. Though charmed by Suzie's attitude, believes our fate is sealed and our story is already written. But he explains that Suzie's hope is infectious, and it makes him want to believe again, and that stuff with our friendship has changed his life. After one last conversation with Suzie about how she wants the adventures to stay how they were in the previous chapters, and that this was a bit much, we seal the fountain, and we arise in the empty but trashed main room of the church. And it turns out that Toriel wasn't even there. Disheartened, we leave. But right before we head home, we check Gerson's grave with a variation of It's Raining Somewhere Else from Undertale called The Place It Rained, playing in the background. I find this really interesting because it's making another connection from Undertale to Deltarune. It's Raining Somewhere Else means that is currently raining elsewhere, and the place it rained mean that this is the place it happened, but the raining has stopped. I don't know, I think I might be reading into it a bit too much. But anyways, we make our way back home. Sans Deltarune? Suzie leaves because she doesn't like Sans that much, and Chris goes upstairs because Sans befriended our mom. Chris breaks out of the house, and oh, I forgot to mention that Chris is commuting with someone telling him what to do. Personally, I think it's the knight.